It's time to hit social media for our hashtag segment. We'd like to welcome in Landon Swan, the co-founder of LikeFolio.com, and we have Evelyn Baker, fast market contributor, back with us, talking some United Airlines.
United Airlines, yep. So they report earnings today after market, and of course they follow Delta Airlines, which we saw report earnings, I believe it was August 10th, and they did not do so hot. So I'm looking forward definitely to seeing how United follows. Shares are up about just slightly on a year-to-date period, but Landon, you know, it's so hard to find anything remotely positive when you're searching social media on an airline. Everybody loves to complain, especially, you know, celebrities. I saw that The Situation tweeted United, and I don't know. So I'm wondering, in your data, have you been able to find anything positive on United?
You know, there are some people that talk about positive experiences of airlines. Believe it or not, it's definitely not the majority, especially when you talk about United. I think they have about 44% happiness. So 56% of the people who talk about them are talking negatively. But when they are talking about them negatively, they're still booking flights. So we call that purchase intent. That's when people are talking about booking flights or flying on United. And you can see that overall it's doing fairly well. It's up slightly year over year. They've got a little surge going here with the stock basically at or just off of all-time highs, sort of in that triangle that Ben Watson was talking about. So could see a breakout here. But the thing about United is that yes, the purchase intent looks decent. It looks okay. There's been a lot of strong travel demand, and that's helped them with their pricing power. But, you know, when we look at consumer happiness and people talking about complaining about delays and cancellations, United is really suffering there. So they've got I think, 14 of the 737 MAXs in their fleet, which has been a big problem for them. They've been canceling about 75 to 90 flights per day, and they've just extended that through January. That's causing some problems for them. Obviously, people are more and more frustrated. And, you know, it's interesting because you've got companies like Southwest and American who have more of those planes, and Southwest's happiness is about 58% versus United at 44%. So Southwest is able to handle this much better. It's not just a matter of planes, and that can't just be the excuse to 737 MAXs. So I think that when we look at our data, generally speaking, happiness as an indicator is a much longer term indicator. Purchase intent talks about whether or not people are flying now. And I think that the data is showing that this may be a good quarter for them. I know that last quarter they had, I think, their highest ever revenue. So they're doing well as far as booking flights and getting tickets. But happiness long term is definitely a concern for United.
Yeah, Landon, to Evelyn's point about, you know, a lot of the tweets maybe being negative, I think it's probably the system probably skews for that. If you get delayed, you're alone traveling, go to Twitter, fire off some mad tweets. But when you kind of compare this, I'm glad you brought in Southwest because they obviously had the 737 MAX, 58% happiness, I believe you said. But we've talked about Delta a lot, kind of setting that standard. For some context, what's the happiness on Delta, just to kind of give us an idea?
Believe it or not, Delta's 52, so people are more happy with Southwest, which is a little crazy to me because I love Delta so much. But I think it's a lot to do with the free cancellations, no check baggage, that kind of thing that people like. So if you get above 50% as an airline, you're doing really well. And United is not over that mark. They're down around 44.
So Landon, you brought up the Boeing 737 MAX situation, so I want to touch on that. I did find a tweet that said that United has joined the rising chorus of airlines that won't use the Boeing 737 MAX flights until January at the earliest, which means the cancellation of thousands of flights, plus harder to find flights, and possibly higher fares during the holiday season. American Airlines, there was a report online I saw that they expect to cancel 140 flights per day due to this. So I'm wondering, with all of this, this could not help United's happiness rating, right?
Right, absolutely. I think that the initial cancellations were definitely a huge spike, but they're still having trouble dealing with this. This is not a new issue, and I know that when it comes to an airline, it's a slow-moving ship that's not easy to turn, and you know, it takes a little while to make changes. But you know, as I talked about, Southwest is handling it much better, and they're able to do that. So I think it's just a customer-first type attitude that a company like Southwest has that maybe United could benefit from, and I don't think that they're there yet. And I think it's possible that people's frustrations with a company like United could carry on into the future, because you know what happens when you get a flight that's delayed or canceled and it really screws up your whole trip. You remember that airline, and then 6 months down the road when you're looking at going on another flight and you look at that airline versus another, you remember the time that they kind of messed you up, and so you go with the other one. So longer term potential problems for United with this happiness issue.
I found another longer-term potential problem as well online. They apparently switched up their Mileage Plus program to reward members who spent more on the higher quality programs rather than just how long their flights were. And this Twitter user was not happy about it. They said, "At United, looks like you'll be losing my business after many, many years of loyalty. You are screwing over those who have worked hard for their status and would like to continue flying with you." And I'm not really surprised, they're gearing their mileage reward programs to those higher spenders rather than those, frugal flyers. So maybe this will help their bottom line down the line.
Yeah, Landon, I got to ask you a quick question here, because I think this is a big piece with the airlines, which is the loyalty picture in general. You've talked a lot about Delta's program being really strong, Southwest being really strong, and no surprise that you see their happiness levels the two highest. How important is that to even override a bad experience? If you have a lot of miles with United, you're probably going to still fly with them, right?
Yeah, but if you have points that expire or you have a lot of hoops that you have to jump through, then I think that maybe you're like this user who's thinking about just switching, because if it gets really frustrating, you don't want to deal with it anymore. And I can tell you from personal experience, Southwest and Delta's rewards programs are the opposite of frustrating. They're very easy. They never expire. Very straightforward, very simple to use, and I think that that's why they have a very high customer happiness rating.
I just got to add, they're also easy to get back, right? One of the differences on those airlines, there's so many canceled flights. Like if you spend your United miles and then something happens, you have to jump through 1,000 hoops to get them back. And maybe you can hear my frustration in doing that, but that's true, right? They make it really difficult on both ends, getting in and getting out. And to Evelyn's point, like if they're reducing the satisfaction unintentionally of their lower end customers, right, just to get the people that are spending a lot, you're really disenfranchising a lot of the people that are paying the bills. That's tough.
Yeah, I'm a loyal Southwest flyer myself, so maybe I've been lucky and haven't dealt with any bad experiences outside a canceled flight here and there, but I continue to go back for the ease of use and cancellations and flexibility, to Landon's point. But Landon, closing thoughts here on this. To Ben Watson's point, it's kind of squeezing. It could go either way technically. It's middle of the range over the last year, basically flat, up 3.5%. Your data seems to be kind of flat here. Purchase intents, I guess, ticking down. But if you guys had to make a call going into this, are you leaning one way or another?
I wouldn't be surprised if they report a good quarter, and if they do break out of that range, I think that I'd be bearish long-term based on the happiness. And so it's sort of a short-term, long-term thing. I wouldn't be surprised if they report a pretty good quarter, because we've got the purchase intent up 7% year over year, and with them at all-time highs, it could break out. But long-term, I don't like where they're at with their happiness, and I think that they're making people frustrated and upset.
All right, Landon, we'll leave it there. Well said, as always, and we'll see what happens after the close this afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Have a good day.